Welcome back to Dominions, where last time our never-ending war with the purple guys actually made some progress. We started taking their capital and took down some of their armies. It's all looking better, perhaps because we've discovered interesting things like tactics and how our units are meant to be used. Still don't know their stats, but that's never going to happen. Aside from a dragon cheekily trying to take back the enemy capital, that war is now starting to look okay. And now here comes another revolutionary development. I've now unlocked the ability to dispel global blessings. This means we can cast a spell that will stop the enemy from coming down into the sea, or at least with their land units. So to dispel it, we have to do this weird gambling system where you have to guess how many pearls whoever made the spell put into it and put more into the dispel to get rid of it. Not knowing where to start with that, I just went with double the suggested amount to see what would happen. Here's the results of the next turn. Various minor defensive wins all over the place. We do have our other endless wars with all of the other factions, but there's not much happening on the other fronts right now. We're still getting attacked, but only a little bit, so that's generally fine. Here's our fight with the dragon that's trying to take back the purple capital. It's sitting there outside the castle. Put together some guys to bring it down. It jumps in amongst them and then gets attacked by everything and dies pretty fast. So that actually went pretty well. With that, we now have full control of that area, plus that was the purple god, so now they're mad. It will also spread their dominion a bit less. Gotta have that battle there at monster depth, that's still happening. We also managed to successfully scout one of the enemy's frontline forts. That's what this battle here is. We sent one guy in to see what was in a fort we had under siege, and the answer was quite a lot, so it's good we didn't go in unprepared. This is the next castle along the peninsula, the next place we need to take. Now we know we need to send in quite a serious force to deal with it, and with that dragon out of the way, we're going to have some spare things just behind the front line. We can move up to help with all that. Now the Dispel didn't work, as it turned out. We didn't put enough number into the spell, so I'm just going to put absolutely loads in. We've got tons of spare pearls because I'm not doing anything with them, so I'm just going to try and guarantee that the blessing goes away. And there it is, we've successfully dispelled it. This means at last all of our sea border is much more secure than it's been for a very long time. Our security levels have ramped up, and it comes with this extra bonus because all of the enemy's agents that were in our territory now can't breathe underwater anymore. So it seems it forces all of these battles where tons of spies and saboteurs are going to be removed from play. Who knows what they were actually doing, of course, but generally speaking, this is going to be to our advantage, and in the long term it should stop the enemy sending more agents against us. Although, as we increasingly have territory on the land, that's not going to matter quite as much. Well, it's good and unexpected too. It's particularly useful right here because the peninsula now becomes an actual choke point. Our territory on the right is safe now. The enemy can't come through the sea, so by pushing left we're going to be advancing a front line through a choke point. Nice and easy logistically, we're not going to be extending the front line. This is the opportunity that I imagined I would have way back in like the second or third part of this series. But check this out, they have once again laid siege to the purple capital. Some guy has shown up, one person attacked. I actually didn't have any money in the provincial defense, so it just fell immediately. Somebody now has the castle under siege, the master enchanter. Well, that's inconvenient, now somebody else has to go back to deal with that. But aside from this, our war with purple is suddenly looking much better than before, and here is our attack on that castle. It's a very messy one because we're just going to be fighting entirely in the choke point. Both sides are running at each other, but there's not much fighting to be had. Meanwhile, ranged attacks are raining down. Those slingers might gradually kill us. Our guys at the back are dancing around, perhaps considering leaving. Well, this is not a very good way for us to be fighting. However, we do eventually win, skipping to the end. We just take serious casualties to achieve that. However, we have now choke pointed the enemy off once again. We've now got a fort between us and their capital. They're probably not going to be getting that capital back anytime soon. And we did take out a major enemy force too. Looking good. Still got another castle right next door we need to go for. And every territory we steal away from them will prevent their ability to bounce back, which is the main problem we've been facing so far. I've got a very good feeling about what's happening down there. Across the rest of the map, not that much is happening as mentioned, but I did do this move. I've captured this castle on the western coast from red. They haven't responded to it so far. We know they can if they want to, so being very cautious there and not being very aggressive. Here's another move we're going to make. Going to cast this global enchantment, Eyes of God. That enchantment allows you to see the entire map and see whose territory is whose, and I think it gives you some intel about some of the stats of provinces as well. There's the full details. So by casting this, we can just get a vague idea of what's going on, with my main objective being to know whether it's worth fighting against Red or whether they've already won the campaign effectively because they're so big. Over on the east coast, not much has been happening for a while, and as a result we've built up a bunch of stuff since I'm continuously recruiting. We're then going to use some of that stuff to do something here. Thought I might as well go for that castle I used to have there on the coast. The mountains to its east mean it's kind of in its own little pocket, so you can have it very safely without extending the front line. Here's the squad I sent to take down that master enchanter doing that siege on his own. This proved to be much harder than expected, because he has a spell that turns him into a dragon, so we're back fighting a dragon here again. It jumps over the trolls, kills most of the stuff at the back, and then everybody starts running away without fighting it very much. Overall, that was a disaster once again. We lost a bunch of stuff. Says there the dragon got 207 kills, not quite sure that's accurate, but still a decent amount of kills. Well, now we'll just have to send even more back there to deal with that nonsense. Looks like we're running out of supplies when I piled in to attack the enemy on the east coast. But here we can see the entire map at last. That Eye of God thing went through. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I thought red would be further towards the south. Yellow is actually much bigger than expected. So they control much of that lower half of the land section of the map. Purple barely has any territory at all, which is great news for us. We've already got more than like half of their stuff. Red, not quite as powerful as I thought, although still the biggest faction, probably if you count the number of provinces they have and how much income they have, and they are harassing us right now. They've got a big stack coming at us. They've also started to counter siege there, where I randomly took one of their castles because I was randomly trying to take another one in that little mountained off corner. We can just send some guys to try and sort that out for now because not too much stuff is in that particular area. Overall though, things are looking okay with red because they're not really here on the western coast. We can steal a couple of their territories, maybe at least. Well, let's see what happens. Moving into the next turn, we get this message: the sieging force has been beaten by our forces. That message really confuses me every time I see it because my brain, which is unable to comprehend words at the best of times, sees siege our forces beaten or siege beaten our forces. So I immediately think that message is telling me I've lost the battle, but no, it's telling me I've won. Just one of the many instances where I'm chronically unable to understand what is plainly written on the screen. Here is our army attacking the next of the purple guy choke point fortresses, and it is indeed a choke point battle where we're just fighting some stuff in a pile, getting hit by ranged attacks. Not too nice, but we did win, and it was better than the earlier one too. By the way, there's been a global enchantment for ages, this one here, that's randomly killing our units. I think it's the yellow faction that created this one. I could actually get rid of it now that I know about Dispel, but I didn't want to, because I'm guessing that our enemies have more units than us, so I thought an enchantment that just randomly kills people might weaken the enemy more than us, although maybe if our units are worth more individually that's not the case. I don't know, but I just didn't get rid of the enchantment, so we're just tolerating the random attrition that's causing. Now I just need to work out what we can send to get rid of that dragon, and this peninsula will be looking pretty secure. Purple are butting their heads against the new front line and just losing troops en masse. That's all looking good. They should really wait and try to build something up, but they're just constantly going for it and failing, as they have been for a long time now, and it is screwing them over more and more. Well, looks like the team I sent to fight that dragon was successful according to the stats. We're going to see now how it happened. The dragon does do the thing where it jumps in amongst our stuff and causes mischief, and in fact everybody seems to run away just as that happens, but a few guys stayed behind and fought the dragon, and they won, so we then declared victory in the battle with everyone in the process of sprinting off the field. Well done everybody. We took the red fortress at the top left with an easy battle. There was basically nothing in there. So now we'll move on to take the next area in this triangular mountain section that's in its own pocket, and no big response here from Red. And if you want to know where Red's troops are, we only have to scroll slightly down. They're here, towards the lower part of our west coast front line, with all kinds of stuff. They've also taken over Marignon's capital now, so Orange is basically out of the game. They've got a couple of scraps of territory left, but they probably can't recruit very much. Same for us really, we can't recruit much in that area, and with all of our forces up north, we don't really stand much chance if Red tries to attack. We're doing the old-fashioned strategy, say it with me now children, just hope they don't attack you. Against Purple, things are the other way around. We need to keep pushing our advantage. You might note my armies now are packed with trolls because I can't properly recruit here. I've just spent tons of water gems summoning trolls and throwing them into the battles. They're pretty good, and I think trolls don't use any supplies for some reason, so you can mass them in a province without taking any attrition. Moving on to the next set of battles. More successful defences against Purple. If they just waited around, they could have hundreds of troops by now, but no, they are happily sacrificing them in impossible attacks. Not sure what the AI is thinking with all this. We successfully moved into that next Red territory, another castle to take there, and we've moved into another Purple territory as well, and with each loss, their ability to bounce back disappears. They're in big trouble at this stage, and we have now successfully taken that fort on the east coast I besieged earlier. Not much to that, there was barely anything inside. So that's all good. Red are in trouble, and what I didn't see in that end turn sequence was them attacking me. I thought their big armies here would just push me off the coast. They actually appear to be starting to go back to the west. Absolutely ideal. And I was starting to think about maybe going after Orange's old capital, a valuable province. If they were to leave it alone for a bit, I might bring the army down and attack there instead of attacking up here. I also discovered right here that these mountains aren't as impassable as I thought. You actually can pass to the west through them, so it's not quite the pocket I hoped for. Still a choke point at the very least. There's my setup for attacking Purple going into the next turn after a long turn of stressing over what to do as usual, but stressing less and less as time goes on, and I generally feel like I know what I'm doing. Here we are advancing the front line against Purple. Let's take a little look at it just for fun. Basically our ball of trolls just runs forward and punches their way to victory. We actually have some vague strategy going on. Our guys are more spread out than they usually are, although in this case it doesn't make much difference. Maybe a minor rear attack happened at the end there. Another territory captured, that's all good. We can keep pushing against Red on the east coast, as you can see I'm doing here, cheekily trying to get another castle, simply because their big stacks aren't here at the moment. We did see them moving in this direction, so maybe that's what's prompting them not attacking us on the east coast. That would be good if we're just distracting them from both sides at the same time. We're running a bit thin on the Purple front, so it's getting to the point when it's dangerous to advance. It would be nice to sit around a few turns and just bring more stuff up from behind. You might note though, we've actually isolated their Throne of Ascension down there at the bottom. It's now on its own. If we can take that, we'll be 1 point closer to winning, although still nowhere near winning. The army that was there actually tried to attack. It moved to the northeast. This would have been a great move if my forces approaching the front line hadn't been delayed fighting that dragon earlier. So I actually had quite a lot of stuff a couple of tiles back from the front line, and they happened to intercept this army as they went through, and we absolutely annihilated them, and that's that. Now the Throne of Ascension is going to be not very guarded at all. We also successfully captured another fort from Red. This happened again. Somehow the Purple guys are getting this Master Enchanter to sneak over here and try to turn into a dragon to get their capital back. The thing is, this time, when he used his spell, he just got a little bit taller. That's much less imposing. Well, now our Provincial Defense Force, just a ball of trash, will run at him. I thought we'd just immediately kill him, but maybe there's a second chance to do that spell because he does turn into a dragon now once the fighting starts. Handily, he was also paralyzed at the same time, so he didn't do anything as a dragon, and then died. And that was the end of that. Another weird attack attempt repulsed. There's another fort capture against Red. I think when I just said we captured a fort about a minute ago or 30 seconds ago, I was lying. That was a capture of a territory. Hard to remember. As you might know, I'm not really reading the text that's on the screen, so you'll have to forgive me. I'm vaguely remembering what happened. Our holy jellyfish did some sort of experiment according to that message there and got wounded, so that sucks. But anyway, in this next turn, while pondering the front line, I was starting to feel pretty good about this. Purple are really on the back foot. They're going down, and they were our big rival for no other reason than I wanted them to be. They're not our real rival. And I remembered that with that Eye of God spell, it actually lets you look at the scores and see how the other factions are doing on these graphs. And there you go, now we can finally check it out. Our real rival is clearly red. We ascended together there. And now at the very end, red is going down, we're going up as we're sneakily taking a couple of red's territories and just somehow avoiding battle with their massive armies, mainly because they're just moving them around doing other stuff, I suppose. We can look at the other categories. Red have tons of forts. They've got castles on virtually all of their tiles, so it's going to be very slow to take their territory, which is one of the reasons I didn't really want to do it. In terms of money, red are still winning. In terms of gems, we're about equal with red. Research, well, red have just about everything, we have just about nothing. We're really far behind on researching magic because I spent most of the game not doing it, and I'm still barely doing it now. Red are far ahead for Dominion, and they're just about ahead of us for army size. We actually have a similar amount of stuff to red. If we weren't so spread out over several fronts, we might be able to make the kinds of massive stacks we see them moving about the board. And as for the actual ascension points, the thing that determines if you're going to win, red is winning by a mile, but that's not all that important because they still only have a couple of points. They're nowhere near the amount they need. On that topic, here we are going after the Purple Throne of Ascension, now barely guarded. So things are, broadly speaking, looking good for us at last. We're getting there. We're actually possibly the #1 faction. We're competing with red for #1. We have momentum, we can crush our rivals purple and make me feel like I've won the campaign, even if red can still kill us at any time if they want to, but they don't want to, the old classic. Things are just working out surprisingly well right now. We're going to have at least one more part of this series, because I'm just going to attack on all fronts and see what we can do. I sense blood in the water with red, they're floundering. We've got more territories we can steal on all of our fronts with them. And well, we'll just see how it goes and see how much longer I can be bothered to play. We're still absolutely miles from finishing the campaign, so it's almost definitely not going to happen. It'll just get to a point when I say we possibly could actually win from here, which could even be here for all I know. Well, there'll be another one.